Welcome, viewers. This is a continuation of our first episode, Talking Money. With you is me still, Teacher Emi Sinjabani, a teacher of English, an examiner, and an author. Welcome to Top Notch Online TV. So remember our previous episode on plot and themes on the story Talking Money. And we looked at three major themes in that story: the theme of greed and materialism, the theme of differences in social classes, as well as the theme of traditions and superstitions. This session, we are going to look at a sample essay from the said story, a story Talking Money. What are some of the essays, all a sample essay that can be tested, and how would you approach such a question? Remember, our viewers, for you to answer an essay question, you will need a good mastery of the plot analysis as well as good understanding of the themes or the issues that the author of this story wanted to bring out using his story. And that's why I have just mentioned the themes that we discussed. For you to make a follow-up for this session, please go and look for the first session of this story, Talking Money, only found on Top Notch Online TV. So our essay today is from Top Notch Online, a Top Notch English Guru. This is the book, the only book that you're guaranteed to get a clean A. If you use this book, you're guaranteed to get a clean A. It's a comprehensive book that covers the syllabus, the English syllabus, all the way from Form 1 to Form 4. So our essay today is from page 327. Failure to heed to good advice can be disastrous. Failure to heed to good advice can be disastrous. Using illustrations from Talking Money by Stanley Gazemba support this statement. The first thing you do as a student once you are presented with an essay question is you try to interpret the essay. Interpret the essay. Don't rush to answering the question. Don't rush to planning the question. First, ask yourself, what is the examiner expecting from you? What is this, the set of this question? What do they expect from a candidate? And you do that by first asking yourself, what are the keywords in this essay question? For example, in this one, this is a two-sided essay question, but we first look at the keyword. The first one is failure. The other one is failure for what? Heed to good advice. So you would underline failure, then heed, and then advice, and then disastrous. Those are the keywords that help any student to understand this essay question. Number two, ask yourself, how many sides are, how many angles are supposed to be brought out when answering this question? This is a two-sided question, just like I have mentioned. The first one is a failure to heed to advice. Failure to heed to advice. And then the second side is how that failure can be disastrous, or how that failure to heed to advice can affect an individual. So what does this question require from you? First of all, you are supposed to show who failed to listen. And number two, what advice was this person given that he failed to listen? Number three, who is the person who gave them advice? So that is answering the first part of this question. Who gave them the advice? Who was given the advice? What was this piece of advice that this person was given, yet they failed to listen? That's the first part of that story. If you answer your question only factoring on those three things, you only get a then, because you have not factored in the second part of the question, which is this person refused to listen to this piece of advice. So how were they affected? Or what were the results of that action? The fact that they did not listen to the advice. So that is the effect part or the disastrous part. That said, we look at the introduction we have here on page 327. So remember we said if you want to check the different types of introductions for any essay question, please check on Top Line Online TV, on Top Notch Online TV, on how to answer essay questions. There is a whole session on that takes a student on a detailed step-by-step way to answer essay questions. Subscribe. Press that subscribe button and you'll be equipped in answering paper 3 questions. Sorry for that. So this introduction that I have here is a general introduction. It is not contextualized. It's just a general introduction. So when given good counsel by people who are close to us, or older or experienced, it is good to listen and apply it. Sometimes when we fail to listen, we suffer. It is good to note, our learners, that if the key, like for example, the key words that we underlined in the question, when we interpreted it, or when we try to interpret it, those keywords should never be repeated in your introduction. Because you can't give a meaning of a word by giving the word itself. You have not answered the question. So the words that we underline, failure, hid, advice, disastrous, those words should never feature in your introduction at any point. So that is the general introduction that we have there, to show that if someone does not listen, or someone does not pay attention to what they are counseled about, then the effects might be disastrous to themselves or even to others. So we have 4 points here. The first point we have is Mukindani does not listen to his elder brothers. Mukindani has 2 elder brothers, and when they hear that he is selling his land, or his portion of the ancestral land, they actually go all the way to his home to go and warn him against doing it. But he does not listen to them. He actually throws them out of his house, and he goes ahead to sell the land. So that is the part where he does not listen to good advice. So what were the consequences of him not listening to them? So later Mukindani suffers when the money he got from selling the land starts talking to him in the middle of the night, creating fear amongst members of his family. So that is the consequences. He goes ahead, sells the land, but the money he receives is believed to be having the Viganda spirit, so it starts talking in the middle of the night, creating anxiety and fear in every member of his house. The second point, Mukindani's wife tries to advise her husband, but he does not listen. He instead punished her for meddling in his affairs. So that's the point about Ronika. Ronika is Mukindani's wife. Later that evening, she tries to warn him, tell him to listen to the advice given to him by his brothers, advice given to him by other people. She even reminds him that everyone in the village knows the Gallo. The Gallo is the people who wanted to buy his land. And no one does business with the Gallo because no one knows where their money comes from. So she tries to warn him against doing business with the Gallo, and also tries to insist that he should listen to the advice given to him by his brothers. But instead of listening to him, Mukindani beats her. He takes out a whip and whips her the entire night. So what were the consequences? Later, Mukindani suffers when he sells the land to the gallows and the money starts talking, and Ronika, whom he had beaten for meddling, tells him to leave the house with his millions. So in the middle of the night, when the money starts talking and Mukindani is so afraid, he doesn't even want to touch the briefcase, Ronika reminds him, I warned you. I told you to listen to people. I told you not to do business with the gallows. Now these are the consequences. Carry your own cross. So she forces him to take the briefcase and get out of the house with the briefcase that she believed was carrying the Viganda spirits. So her telling him to carry his own cross and pushing him out of the house with a briefcase that had money, which was talking in the middle of the night, is the consequence of Mukindani not listening to his wife Ronika. The third point is Mukindanyi does not listen to his neighbors. So the neighbors try to advise him. They even talk about gallows money, being not money that is actually clean money. Even when his brothers come to advise him, the neighbors actually, the neighbors uh, look on into what is happening. They shake their hand and they just walk away. They know better than to interfere with things that involve Mukindanyi, especially when he is angry. So Mukindanyi suffers when he walks alone at night, holding a talking briefcase, because he did not heed to anyone's advice. If he had listened to the neighbors, maybe they would have helped during this time of the night when he was forced to walk with money with briefcase full of talking money. He would even have called one of the neighbors to come and assist him. But who can he call? He never listened to them. He never paid attention to anything that the neighbors told him. So he suffers the consequences alone. The last point we have under the body is, as a child, Mukindanyi fails to listen to his father. That we are given this point through flashback. When Mukindanyi was a child, his father Kizungu insisted so much. Sorry for that. His father Kisungu, not Kizungu. Kisungu insisted so much on Mukindanyi going to school. He tried to take him to school, but Mukindanyi always jumped to the window and to spend his days with friends, roasting maize and playing simbi. So his father would think that Mukindanyi is in school, but Mukindanyi never attended lessons. He never attended any classes. So at the end of it all, he is now a grown-up who is not educated. And this makes him suffer because he cannot even put a simple signature on a paper. Every time he goes to the post office to withdraw or deposit money or take his bonus, he has to use his thumbprint. When Gallo comes with the sale agreement for his land, and tells him to sign the agreement, Mukindanyi hesitates, and out of embarrassment, he declares that he cannot actually. They realize that he cannot sign, and that is when they give him a pad of ink and he signs using his thumbprint. So those are the 4 points that you can use to argue the essay. Failure to heed to good advice can be disastrous. And remember, our learners, there is no essay without a conclusion. A conclusion might seem like it's something that is of less importance, but it carries or 2 marks. And a conclusion, just like we said in our past episodes or sessions, a conclusion is not actually you stating or restating the question. It is like you summarizing the points that you have discussed in the body without introducing a new point. Number 2, you can even use a moral lesson. Like what we have here is like when someone offers us some advice. This is a moral lesson. When someone clearly offers some advice, it is good to listen and follow what is best. Being hard-headed does not bring forth good rewards. So the conclusion we have here is like a moral lesson. Learn something from that. Listen first, and then from what you're advised, you can now sample. You can now sample and decide what to follow and what not to follow. Don't dismiss someone before listening to what they are about to tell you or what they want to tell you. So that marks the end of our essay question. There are many more essays from the short stories. There are many questions from all the set books that we have in English, including the set books that are being done this year, that are coming out of the syllabus this year, and all the other new books that have been introduced with the current Form 3s. You only need to get this book from the leading bookshops, and you are equipped to tackle all the English questions, and you are assured of an A at the KCSE. That marks our the end of our session today. Have a good day, and from the studio, bye bye.